Hello everyone and welcome into Capital City Sports preview of the 2015 Women's Final Four. Alongside Nick Jones, I'm John Wagner, and we're here today to talk about the top four teams left in the country. UConn, Maryland, Notre Dame, and of course the University of South Carolina Gamecocks. Nick, you and I were in Greensboro this past weekend for the Sweet 16 and the Elite Eight. What are some things you saw in South Carolina that you have to look forward to in the next game?
Well, South Carolina did not start well in either one of those games, but they did pull out the win in the end, so I think that gives them a little bit of a confidence booster, knowing that they get in a tough situation that they can pull away to a victory. But they also had to rely on players like Tiffany Mitchell, and Tina Roy was great with her outside shooting, and Elena Coates, so I think those are players they need to look out for in this Final Four.
Exactly. They had 9 busfuls of fans come to the games in Greensboro. Hopefully they'll have more in Tampa. But for more on these games, let's send it to Brett Williams and Sarah Stone.
Thanks, John, and welcome inside this special analysis segment for the Final Four. I'm Brett Williams alongside Sarah Stone. And so obviously a fantastic opportunity for South Carolina here. First time the Gamecocks have ever been in the Women's Final Four. It's quite a nice energy running around here in Columbia. Everybody's excited for the team. I think they've got some good prospects heading to Tampa.
Definitely, I think that too, and I think it's great. You know, South Carolina has definitely shown that they can play in high-pressure games, winning 2 close games in the regionals.
Absolutely. So as we look at the Gamecocks' first opponents, one of the 2 main giants in this Final Four, the Notre Dame Fighting Irish, who have been a bit overshadowed by the UConn Huskies, but they have been in 5 straight Final Fours and 3 of the last 4 national championship games. So Notre Dame knows what it takes to get it done at this level, and they want to beat not only South Carolina, but finally UConn this time. Head coach Muffet McGraw said that she really wanted to appreciate this run and let her freshmen get used to this big scene and just have fun with it, because a lot of people didn't think that Notre Dame would make it quite this far this year. So they're looking to do some good things there. As for the matchup specifically, Notre Dame comes in 35-2, South Carolina 34-2, and it's just a lot of offensive power on Notre Dame led by Jewell Loyd.
I think that ultimately, even though Notre Dame is a great team, you know, they've come from 5 straight Final Fours. They're going to be entering this matchup thinking that they're just going to skate through, whereas I feel that South Carolina is coming through it through a different perspective of motivation. I think that when you combine that with South Carolina's depth, especially with guards and their size, I think that ultimately South Carolina is going to be able to pull debatably an upset over Notre Dame.
Yeah, it probably would be an upset, all things considered, but South Carolina certainly on even keel if you look at the records and the way these 2 team seasons have played out. It's been 2 fantastic teams, and again, all 4 teams, all 4 number 1 seeds here in the Final Four, so it's going to be quite a dogfight to get to the end there. As we look at some specific matchups in this game, I mentioned Jewell Loyd. She's a junior first-team All-American from Notre Dame, matching up with our own junior first-team All-American Tiffany Mitchell. Mitchell averages 50% from the field. Jewell Loyd only 45, but Loyd does average almost 20 points a game to Mitchell's 14.5. So that'll be one matchup to watch. And the other one is between the freshman phenoms on these teams, Aja Wilson for our own South Carolina and Brianna Turner for Notre Dame. That should be another fun one to watch. Wilson has slightly less on both points per game and field goal percentage than Turner, but look for them to get after it. I think one key to this game is going to be, can Aja Wilson get established down low? We saw Elena Coates, who was named the Greensboro Region Most Outstanding Player. She was fantastic down in the paint, scoring 6 for 6, 14 points, perfect from the field against Florida State, rather. And that should be a fun one to see if Wilson can put up the same numbers as Coates. I think South Carolina's got a really good shot.
Definitely. So next up we've got UConn and Maryland. And I really think that ultimately, even though I would like to say that Maryland pulls an upset over UConn, I think at the end of the day what happens is to pull an upset, some of the key things that you need, like layups and fouls, are things that at the end of the day UConn really isn't going to, has been shown not to really give over to teams. So Maryland would really have to be a dominant team, and I think that just looking at basic schedule, you know that UConn really is a dominant team. They've beat 2 of the teams in the Final Four already by a combination of 43 points, and they haven't lost.
Just pure dominance.
True, and they haven't won a game by less than 20 points since March 9th. So I think that the win ultimately goes to UConn.
Yeah, UConn it's just pretty much a hard team to beat on any given day by any team at all. And Maryland's going to have to outscore them, obviously, to win the game. But UConn doesn't play defensive struggles. If you can't score against the Huskies, you're not going to win games. Now, luckily for Maryland, the Terrapins do average almost 80 points a game, which I think they're going to probably have to hit that level in order to beat UConn. Their main offensive threats are going to be point guard Lexi Brown. Sometimes she's known as Big Shot Brown, guy that goes hot and cold. went cold in the Duke game, but was picked up by Shatori Walker-Kimbrough, who put up 18 points in the second half, was just on fire to help Maryland knock off their former ACC rival. Eventually, Maryland would get down in the paint with Brianna Jones to help knock off Tennessee and get back to this point, Maryland returning to the Final Four back-to-back for the first time in school history. So they do have the opportunity to do it, but they're going to have to get out in transition, make shots from the perimeter. It's going to be tough to get anything down low against Brianna Stewart and some of the Huskies' finest. They also have to limit UConn's wide-open shots. If you look at the highlight reel, Dayton was just leaving Kalina Mosqueda-Lewis and some of their other shooters absolutely wide open. And again, you cannot beat UConn when you're allowing that. So it seemed like you pretty much made your pick for the UConn.
Yes, I definitely have.
And I would have to say the same thing. It's just very hard to pick against the Huskies. Maryland might give them a roll. Even then, we don't totally know. So Huskies for that. But I think we're both picking South Carolina against Notre Dame. Should be a good one there, too. Then it takes us to the national championship game. We both have a rematch of UConn-South Carolina, which many folks down here thought was going to be a preview back in February when they played up in Connecticut. Of course, UConn dominated that game, and South Carolina's been wanting to go down to a neutral site and get another shot at the Huskies.
Exactly. I think that really South Carolina was not expecting for UConn to be as dominant over them as they were in that game, and they've been looking for a way to redeem themselves as a top program and a respected program in this country. Since then, I think that they really do have the opportunity to play at a competitive level against UConn in a way that a lot of people don't expect. I don't expect UConn to really have a lead on them by more than 10 points if things get at their worst. I really believe that at the end of the day, Dawn Staley is an amazing coach that has had a month or two by now to prepare for a UConn game. So I don't think that she's going to let that loss take anything from the team. She's going to let them build from that. At the end of the day, though, I think that UConn really just has so much more experience playing at this level. They've got a team with way more upperclassmen. So at the end of the day, that's going to translate to a certain mentality and mental strength that's going to have them win over South Carolina, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's certainly a fair point. I think Dawn Staley, kind of like Pat Summitt had the rivalry with Gino Auriemma for so long. Staley has said on a number of times how much she's going to gun after them, and I think that mindset will certainly help the Gamecocks going in. Auriemma's been talking recently about the men's game, saying that, quote, it was a joke, and saying that this just, he prefers the women's game clearly, but again, sometimes you got to find stories about Connecticut because all you just see is win after win after win. So we'll see what South Carolina can do against them. I agree with you. I think it will be a close game, particularly with the way these four teams are. I don't see any of these being total blowouts, but unfortunately it's just very hard to pick against UConn at this level. I think South Carolina can beat them. I think Notre Dame can beat them. I think Maryland can beat them, but Huskies right now is simply too tough. I think we're going to see them winning their fifth out of the last 7 national titles. So with that, that's the end of our analysis. We're going to send it back now to John Wagner and Nick Jones.
And there you have it. There's some rock-solid analysis and some great picks from Brett and Sarah. Hopefully they aren't right and we come out of the weekend with a South Carolina national championship, but you never know.
Yeah, hopefully South Carolina does win. I know Darius Rucker did say that if the Gamecocks win the national championship, he will play a free concert for students here in Columbia. So that's exciting.
Absolutely. It's something to look forward to, as well as adding another national championship to the repertoire here at the school. And we'll be there, you and myself, as well as Kristen Whitaker. I'll be there down in Tampa. So it's definitely exciting. Look out for some coverage from us. And for Brett and Sarah and Nick Jones, I'm John Wagner.